The US is going all in with Stargate, a $500 billion megaproject in infrastructure. Meanwhile, China shakes up the game with DeepSeek. Alongside Llama, a new wave of open-source AI developments emerges, challenging the established rules. Is this the beginning of a race between two opposing visions of AI? Can decentralization challenge the tech giants? And most importantly, what impact will this have on the economy and the future of work? Stay with us as we explore ways to navigate this turbulent present.
Digital Ritual is a podcast by Digital Pilgrims. This season, Lauren Johnson and Paul Chase explore the present, and with expert guests begin to unravel the future. Join them as they tackle the mysteries of a new reality. Digital Ritual is sponsored by In All Media, your partner in digital transformation.
Welcome to a new episode. Today we have with us Adrián Sicilia, author of Digital Pilgrims and an expert in digital transformation. Adrián, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Lauren and Paul. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Adrian, don't you ever feel like hitting the pause button? Just when you think you're catching up, something new pops up and you have to learn, adapt, rethink.
Isn't that the fun part? Personally, I find this moment fascinating. Everything feels new all the time, but you have to stay sharp because things move so fast. At the same time, we can find some comfort by analyzing the flow with long-term concepts to guide us, almost like using a tide chart.
And no matter how much we try to focus on something else, AI always finds its way into the conversation. The transformation is so profound, so far-reaching, that it's impossible to ignore.
I think AI is the first technology that truly exposes how outdated some of our definitions are. Our usual ways of thinking don't seem to fit anymore. We can't just call AI a tool, it's something more. It's unfolding before our eyes. Like you said, it's so pervasive, so fundamental, that it touches everything. We saw something similar with the internet before, but now the impact is undeniable to more people.
Let's dive right in. 2025 has taken a sharp turn when it comes to AI. It seemed like things were heading in one direction, and then, boom, a sudden shift. Adrian, can you break down what happened?
At the end of January, newly elected President Donald Trump signed an agreement to fund the Stargate project. It's a $500 billion plan to build AI infrastructure, with key partners like OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, a true coalition of industry giants.
One of the biggest challenges with AI so far has been the massive infrastructure and computing power it requires. Entire buildings filled with energy-hungry machines that also have an environmental impact. What's behind Stargate that made the US government jump on board?
It's simple. The US and its strategic partners see AI as the backbone of future economic power. Until now, the logic was clear. More infrastructure meant more computing power, which translated into more influence. The approach was to generate cheap energy, turn it into computation, and distribute trained AI models through centralized services. In other words, AI was being treated as the oil of this era. OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic played the role of refineries, turning raw computing power into proprietary AI models and selling them as a service. But then,
that same week on the other side of the world, China released DeepSeek.
Exactly. That move says a lot. Until now, access to cutting-edge AI was clearly favored for those with greater ability to afford the high costs of GPUs and energy. We know that energy is the true commodity of this era, and the new models appeared to be more efficient. Most people thought the breakthrough was just about using less computing power, but those were quick takes, shaped by immediate circumstances. It's crucial to understand that the playing field for resources tends to level out over time. Efficiency is a goal all models aim for and eventually achieve in some version or another. But models like DeepSeek, and also Llama in this respect, bring another, more important ingredient. They're open source. And that's where the long-term debate lies, the most fundamental one.
Okay, exciting. What do you mean?
Since they're open source, there's no need for centralized distribution. Anyone can run their own system with minimal infrastructure and train it however they like. The entire production chain is no longer necessary if AI can be run almost at a personal level and scaled exponentially. Of course, this shift brings new debates.
We're witnessing two opposing approaches to AI. One open, one closed. It's almost like two competing teams. If you had to pick a side, which one would you bet on?
The key difference is centralization. These two models reflect contrasting views on who should benefit from AI and who should control it. I think the debates sparked by this divide are too important to reduce to a simple choice. I'd rather bet on the discussion itself.
Always betting on knowledge and dialogue. That's why Digital Ritual episodes turn out so well. Let me ask you the same question differently. Do you see something deeper behind this clash?
I wouldn't frame it quite like that, but I do see interesting strategies at play. Take Llama, Meta's AI model. It's open source, just like DeepSeek. Meta learned from its metaverse experience and opted for a strategy that prioritizes safer, more measured steps over aggressive innovation. They've managed to stay in the game without taking excessive risks, perhaps by keeping their options open.
How do you think this newfound competitiveness of open models affects companies that have built their dominance on scaling infrastructure?
It's a huge challenge. Companies like OpenAI and Google DeepMind have structured their business around centralized computing and selling AI access. Until now, they largely controlled the overall direction of dominant AI development. Now, they represent just one of the competing paradigms. Decentralized options have gained significant traction.
So what you're describing isn't just competition between two AI models, it's something much deeper. Do you think this could impact our current economic and social systems, as some experts predict?
I'd say yes and no at the same time. What we're witnessing is not the end of capitalism, but a new phase of it. Some call it post-capitalism. Others speak of techno-feudalism. But in my view, it's a natural evolution of capitalism. One where the digital realm takes center stage. A more mature phase that recognizes large-scale AI infrastructure as a limiting factor rather than the organizing principle. And here's another key point. Open source AI shifts productive power into the hands of many, which means into the hands of anyone.
I see where you're going. What concerns you most about security in this new landscape?
That's definitely a critical issue, and a complex one. Unrestricted access to powerful AI could lead to security threats, from misinformation to sophisticated cyber attacks. But on the flip side, over-regulation could stifle innovation. Open experimentation has proven to be an incredibly effective development path. It's all about finding the right balance.
That adds new layers to the age-old debate on regulation, doesn't it? If AI becomes a decentralized resource, how can governments ensure it's used responsibly?
That's the million-dollar question, Paul. Decentralized AI is a double-edged sword. Governments will likely try to establish regulatory frameworks, but here's the paradox. Can you really regulate something that anyone with enough technical knowledge can train on their own hardware?
And if traditional regulation doesn't work, what alternatives are there?
Decentralized validation protocols, open source model auditing, even community-driven governance mechanisms. Ethics will also play a role. Going forward, discussions will focus more on both individual and collective responsibility in how we use these tools.
That dual perspective, individual and collective, is really interesting. I also wonder about the everyday impact of this shift. If AI becomes decentralized and accessible to everyone, how will that reshape work and productivity?
That's a crucial question. For many professions, this represents a fundamental shift. It's no longer just about adopting AI as a tool, it's about collaborating with intelligent systems. The challenge is that many organizations and individuals still think in hierarchical terms rather than as partners in a new kind of workflow. We're entering a phase where the changes we've been discussing for years are finally becoming tangible.
Hard to believe we've been debating this for so long already.
And let me add, more people than before can access those debates. We're now reaching more platforms than ever. In addition to Digital Pilgrims' website and our podcast on major platforms, we're expanding into YouTube, with some exciting updates coming soon.
Exactly, Paul. You're becoming quite the podcaster yourself. Adrian, I feel like the connection between these latest developments and the concepts we've been discussing makes for a perfect closing note.
I agree, Lauren. And to tie it back to what Paul said earlier, news moves fast, but fortunately, we have solid frameworks to guide our thinking.
That's how I like to see our content, long-term perspectives to help us navigate the stormy seas of change.
Great metaphor, Paul. Adrian, thank you so much. Hope we can have you back soon.
As soon as our schedules align, thanks to both of you and to all our listeners.
I really like the way this conversation ended, Lauren. We've definitely created a space for reflections that help guide us and allow others to build their own maps for decision-making.
I agree, Paul. This episode definitely felt that way. Since you mentioned our content channels, Let me add that we hope to have more episodes soon, with guests like Gabriel Spitz and John Genovese, who joined us in the previous episode. I think it's important to bring into these discussions the perspectives of representatives from organizations that are facing challenges and driving change.
If I were listening to this episode, I'd definitely go back and check out the previous one, along with the new YouTube video, which is probably already up on the Digital Pilgrims channel by now.
That's a great tip, because this episode ends right here. See you soon, Paul.
Goodbye, Lauren. See you in the next ritual.
This has been a Digital Pilgrims podcast, sponsored by Coderful, the service management platform for remote teams that's transforming the industry. Learn more at inallmedia.com. Explore more of these debates on the Digital Pilgrims YouTube channel. Digital Ritual, the urgent questions.